And we're back with some more Factorio. And previously on Factorio, we finished oil, we finished our loading and loading section. Well, we haven't actually quite finished that, but we've got it roughed out. This is for all our resources getting loaded up onto our smaller trains to get sent through steel smelting, iron plate smelting, copper plate smelting. Then we've got solidification, which is where we turn all our liquids into solids so that we can stick them onto our transport train. You know, your rocket fuels, your batteries, stuff like that. Oh, plastic also. And then we've got your blue circuits. So all we've got left to do is we've got to do green circuits and red circuits. And once we have those done, we can actually start on the sciences. So, give me 1 minute here. Please excuse the terrible video quality. It's just YouTube compression does not handle lots of little particles flying around the place very well. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of bots when it comes to any factory when you go large scale. So let's have a quick look at this catastrophe. When it comes to green circuits, oh, you know what? Let's have a quick go over the numbers so this will make more sense. Here is our wonderful calculator that's telling us how much resources we need to produce this 750 science per minute module. Of course, we're still going to need to build, what, 8 of these? But that's fine, that's fine. What we're going to do is come down here, though, and tick out blue processors. We've already finished those, remember? And they do take up green and red circuits, so if we remove those from here by clicking on them, they are now grayed out. This tells us how much remaining green and red we're going to need. Then we just take this number here, and we go to our next tab over, and we basically see how many factories it will take to produce that. It's 12.5. But we've run into a little bit of a weird snag. This is the first time where one of the subproducts actually requires more assemblers. You see, in this instance, we've got 12.5 assemblers to make all the green circuits, but 13.4 of these little copper things. And those copper cable assemblers, that actually becomes our bottleneck. So what we should really do, well, what I kind of end up doing, instead of building, say, 12.5 of these and 13.4 of these, that would be too awkward. Instead, we just go with direct insertion, where we take all of these copper cables and directly insert them into the machines. In fact, you can see it right here. We're directly taking the copper cables from here and inserting them in. This was not originally how I did it, though. Originally, I did it something like this. I would have, the copper cables dumped into a side chest, which would then get shunted up into the green circuit assemblers. However, we ran into a very, very unexpected problem. When I built the setup, this was feeding directly into that, and it wasn't being able to feed it fast enough. I eventually figured out that what was happening was the inserters couldn't keep up. See, an inserter can move 27.69 items per second. However, if we go back to this one and we change this to items per second and we get one of these factories here, you'll notice this thing is producing 30.8 copper cable per second. Literally, a single inserter could not remove the copper cables from the factory fast enough. And that's why I was getting the odd numbers. So, back to the drawing board. Instead, what we did was we put a little gap between them and chucked in 2 inserters so that we could move the copper cables fast enough and keep this thing from clogging up, because this was literally getting clogged. You couldn't get the copper cables out fast. It was just ridiculous. And this is how we ended up with this sort of abomination of a these things here. We've got the offset speed beacons again, because it seems offset speed beacons are just my jam. I can't seem to get away from them. It looks like I love them an awful lot. It was the only way I could get it to work. And then we jam in 1 speed beacon here so that this one is in range of 12. Everything here is in range of the 12 sources, or in range of 8 speed beacons, and has 4 productivity modules in it. And that just means that this feeds into this. There's no, this is going to be, or what was it? This thing will be slightly starved of copper cables occasionally. It's just the way it is. The limiter here is really the copper cable production. Copper plate comes in from up here in the top left. That feeds directly into the copper cable assembly. Iron plate comes in here and feeds in directly into those 2. And then that all gets fed down here into this red chest. Down, and the green circuits get fed out into the rest of the network. That was just part 1. Then came red circuits. And red circuits turned out to be not so bad, actually. You see, for red circuits, all you need is green electronic circuits, which, well, we've just finished making those. Plastic, we've already got on our train, and that's just going to be delivered. And then we just need copper cable. So all we need to do is figure out how we're going to hook the copper cable up into the red circuits. And that turned out to be not that big of a deal. We just copy-pasted how much of the red we needed, which was this many here. We copied that over to there. And then this told us everything we needed to know, which means we needed 59 red circuit assemblers, which is a lot. It's a lot, but you know, we just rounded it up to 60 and said 30 each side. Then we just had to figure out how many factories we needed. Now, originally, of course, I started with the 1, and then I could see exactly how many of these copper cable assemblers we needed. We just cranked it up to 4, though, and you'll see that 1 copper cable assembler can support 4 of these red advanced circuits. From then on in, it was actually pretty straightforward. All we had to do was figure out how we're going to feed them and remove the resources, which turned out to be not that bad. We put 1 copper cable assembler in the middle. That will feed 2 to the left of it and 2 to the right of it. Done. However, we also wanted to feed these red circuit assemblers with other things, which was the plastic and the green circuits. So we did a little bit of circuit magic here. It's not really that magical. This is just limited. It has a little cable connected to it, and it tells it if there's more than 48 copper cable in this chest, stop. That way it doesn't fill up this whole chest with copper cable. And this chest requests plastic and green circuits from the network, well, from the chests by the trains. So this way all of the necessary resources end up here, meaning we only need 1 inserter to feed this whole machine. And it's quite slow. These red circuits do take a long time to build, even with all the speed boosts. So this 1 inserter is able to keep them fed quite handily. And then just, a couple of inserters each side to take the resources out. And that was it. The whole back rows are made of red circuits, namely because they don't require a lot of resources. They're much slower to produce, whereas the green ones are put nice and close to the rail line so we can cut down on travel distances and times. This is actually quite an efficient little node. Of course, now we've done, well, all the main resources. By all the main resources, I mean we can come back here and we can just scroll down here a bit and say, well, we don't need red circuits. That can be ticked off. We don't need plastic. We've already produced all that on the network. We don't need steel. We've produced that on the network. We've produced batteries on the network. Green circuits, they can also go. Steel plate, also gone. Rocket fuel. Oh, wait, you cannot tick that for some reason. And sulfur, we've already got that done. In fact, all of the liquids have been done, which means all we've really got left to do, there's no real other production nodes that need producing. All we have to do now is produce science. So now we get to do the joy of producing as much science as we possibly can. So if we look under here, here is the red science. It's going to require 9 assemblers to make and about 0.6 of a gear assembler. This should be incredibly simple. I mean, something this basic and simple would be fine, but once you get this far, you realize, wait a minute, I'm going to be producing gears for some of the other things. I want to sort of combine everything together. Like, we're going to have an awful lot of these modules built together. Like, putting red science on its own would be a waste, having its own private stop. I think we could probably get 4 or maybe even 5 sciences in one lump. And if we combine everything into one big section, we can spread out the resources a lot more efficiently. For example, this requires gears to make that red science, but also the green science requires gears, not to make the science, but to actually produce transport belt and inserters. And the transport belt or inserters are required by the assembly machine to make the science. But if we combine those two together, that's what, 0.6 of an assembler and 0.9 of an assembler, so 2 assemblers, and we could do both of these sciences all at the same time. Just, and this one also requires gears, so we could cut down an awful lot if we combine a bunch of these things together. So, yeah, this is where this comes in. So red science will require 9 science assemblers, 1 gear assembler. Green science was going to require all of these extra assemblers. All the rest of the items are going to be coming off of our trains. They're produced somewhere else and brought to site. So for the blue science, we're going to need 20 blue science assemblers, 12 engines, 1 gear and 2 pipe. But this gets more confusing when you look down to yellow science, which also requires 2 engine assemblers and also has electric engines and a gear assembler and a pipe assembler. So we can kind of combine those two into one section, I'm thinking. So my job here is to figure out how I can combine all of this into one specific train stop module that is as efficient as possible without killing my brain. Also, we were going to leave out black science. The military sciences, we weren't going to include that, but I've just been looking through here. And honestly, we've got all the resources it takes to produce black science along with everything else. The only thing we're missing is the brick furnaces. And not even so many. If you look up here, we're going to need 9 brick furnaces to produce the rails for the purple science. However, that means if we just add on 4 more brick furnaces and pretty much nothing else, well, okay, we will have to do a few extra bits and bobs here, but 4 more brick furnaces and we'll be able to throw in black science on top of it, meaning this entire base will be able to switch between 750 regular science or 750 military science if you want. It's a tiny increase in complexity on top of what's already loads of complexity, so it's not really that big a deal. I think we're going to be including that. Now give me a few hours. I'm going to try and have to figure out how to make this into an efficient production section. After a little bit of brain burning, yeah, I've lost a few brain cells to take this one. We've got red science over here, pretty straightforward. It's got gears and copper plate, so that was very simple. We're shipping in all the copper plate, the iron plate, green circuits, red circuits, steel, sulfur and lubricant. All of that stuff just gets shipped in here. That's red science quite simply knocked out. All we needed was a little bit of gears, and the gears are over here being produced or being chucked into that chest. which is, yeah, fine. We're actually a little bit tight on those, so I'm going to stick in a second gear assembler later. But for now, we actually have 750... Oh, you know what, let's make the 10-minute round. Yeah, we got about 750 science per minute on all of them, which is just about perfect for us. That's exactly where we were aiming for. Blue science... Oh, actually, no. Let's do green science. Green science, far simpler. This one only requires inserters and transport belt, which was actually quite simple. All that required was one inserter assembly machine and one transport belt assembly machine. That's all it needed, and all those two needed was some iron plate, green circuits, and that's it. Well, we did have to produce some gears on site, but those gears get chucked in here, and those gears get fed into both of those machines. Done. So this is a dedicated gear machine combined with those two, and that just literally takes care of all of our green science production. Then we got to blue, and blue got a little bit more complicated, which is a bit of a surprise considering we're importing red and sulfur. All we needed to do was to make the engine units, but we also wanted to have some excess capacity so that we could make the electric motors. We're going to need them for one of the other sciences as well, and we might as well, if we're going to produce the engines, we might as well do them all in one big long row. So right here we have our pipe production, and yeah, this here is how many engines we needed to produce all of the sciences. And there was a small problem. We needed 2 pipe assemblers. So I was trying to figure out how to squeeze in 2 pipe assemblers when I realized you can't put productivity modules in these, but what happens if we stick in a speed module or few? And next thing you know, well, yeah, you can actually get by just sticking in a few speed modules, and this means we just needed 1 less assembler. I mean, is it an efficient use of speed modules? No, this is a complete waste, and we're burning power for something we shouldn't be doing. But you know what? It saves us 1 assembler, so yeah, there we go. And that's why we have a pipe assembler jam full of speed modules, just so that we could produce enough pipes to keep all of these engines running. And done. That gives us all of those engines. The engines were actually pretty simple. They just required gears, steel plate, and those pipes. The pipes we get from over there. The gears are made right here, productivity module and all that, and speed beaconed, and all done all the way along. Yeah, we definitely need another gear thing. But over here for these electric motors, we're actually bringing in, we barreled up our lubricant earlier on the line, so we're going to bring in lubricant here, have that lubricant dumped into the system, unbarreled to turn into for the motors, and the excess barrels will get dumped back on the train, or the empty barrels will get dumped back on the train. And that should take care of 3 of the sciences, meaning we only need 2 more of the sciences here. Well, actually 3, we're going to need to put in military as well. So we put the 3 sciences on the other side, maybe? We'll have to see. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to squeeze this all in. Well, we did manage to squeeze it in. It just got a little bit bigger than I was anticipating. Yes, some of this stuff requires a lot of space. For example, these, what the hell do you call them? Low-density structures. They just require plastic, steel, and copper plate. We have loads of that lying around. That's all going to be on our main train bus. So we just basically ship that in, done. But it's just, there's so many of them. I think it's like 24 or something crazy. Yeah, there's 24 of them. So they do take up an incredible amount of space. Then on top of that, where is it? Yes, over here for these yellow motors, they need, or the yellow science, they also need the low density structures, but they need the flying robot frames and the blue circuits. Blue circuits we're shipping in, but the flying robot frames, actually, still not that bad. These over here, we just need batteries, which is on the bus, steel, which is on the bus, green circuits, which is on the bus. All we needed was the electric engines to go with them. And the electric engines we produced down here, remember. So these ones were already sorted out. We just shipped the electric engines over here. Oh, and I stuck in just an extra gear assembler down here because we were just a little bit short of gears. You know, it's a little bit tacked onto the end and feels wrong, but I'm just going to leave it there because I'm too lazy to tidy this up any further. This thing is a bit of a brain melter trying to get them all together. But over here we've got our purple science. This was worse than the yellow. This required electric furnaces, productivity modules, and rails. Productivity modules were probably the easiest of the lot. Green and red circuits, done. We just shipped those in. We've already got them on the bus. Finished. Then came the electric furnaces. Oh, wow. Yeah, the 5 seconds craft time, but then you throw in all the speed modules we were using. We were supposed to put in 3 of them, but we thought, hey, I'll just speed module through them. We can cut down on the amount we need. Unfortunately, these things are incredibly hungry. And by incredibly hungry, I mean this here is getting fed by this belt box over here, and it's also getting fed by this box over here. We needed to have 2 stack inserters feeding it. So each one of those has 2 stack inserters feeding it, otherwise they just can't keep up. I was having problems with productivity otherwise. Then, yeah, of course, they just dump out their outputs into there. But yes, that was a little bit of an annoyance, but so long as we were willing to double down and have them double fed, it all worked out just fine. Then came rails. Oh, God. Right, we should only need 3 rail production facilities. The problem is you just can't feed these things fast enough. Look at this. These are still stalling out. Right, it's just, I have this over here, but giving them the iron bars. And then I've got this down here feeding them in the iron, the steel, and the stone. But it just wouldn't work. Even if I tried mixing and matching the two, nope, could not get them to produce enough rails. So instead we ended up throwing on an extra rail production facility at the end. Also, we've got these little iron bar production facilities in the middle to produce all the iron bars they need. I still love the way... Oh, sorry. Iron sticks. I still love the way they're calling these iron sticks instead of iron bars. Yeah, just... Good job, Woob. Good job. Anyway, yeah, that gives us all of the iron bars, which all goes into the science over here. And there you go. Rails, electric furnaces, productivity modules, science, they're done. And then... Oh, yeah, I decided to stick in the military science as well, and to do that was not that bad. The only real... Like, this over here was one speed module basic magazine production facility. All that requires is iron plate. Iron plate and nothing else, and you're able to make bullets. Where the gunpowder comes from, it's a magic mystery. No one knows, don't ask. Then you combine those magazines with some steel plate and copper plate, and you've got armor-piercing rounds. Pretty straightforward, to be honest. You just had a 1 to 2 because of the speed beacons and speed modules and all that stuff. Done, dusted, finished. Walls a little bit trickier. We needed to actually put in 2 feeders so that we could feed it the brick fast enough to make the walls. This thing produces really incredibly quickly. But with that done, we were able to get all the black science up and running as well. So we've got all 6 of the sciences have the potential to be produced. And if we check here on the last 10-minute mark, you'll see every single one of them's above 750. We got 760, 770, 771, 790, even 800s here going on. So we're covered. This should cover all of our science needs, bar this space science, which will be the last module we're going to do. Actually, I'm going to wait until the next episode to do the space science section. Namely because my brain is feeling just a little bit burnt out. Just, this design was a little bit of a contortion to get working. I'm quite happy with the result. It's just, I think if I did the rocket design now, it might be a little bit sloppy. So I'll just wait till I'm refreshed and it's a new episode. Until then, I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed and good luck.